Carl Robnett Licklider did tend to make an impression on people. Even in the early days, long before he got involved with computers, he had a way of making everything look so easy. Lick was probably the most gifted intuitive genius I have ever known, declared the late William McGill in an interview recorded shortly before his death in 1997. McGill explained in that interview that he had first met Lick when he entered Harvard University as a psychology graduate student in 1948. Whenever I would finally come to Lick with the proof of some mathematical relation, I'd discover that he already knew it. He hadn't worked it out in detail, he just knew it. He could somehow envision the way information flowed and see relations that people who just manipulated the mathematical symbols could not see. It was so astounding that he became a figure of mystery to all the rest of us. How the hell does Lick do it? How does he see these things? Talking with Lick about a problem, added McGill, who would later serve as president of Columbia University, amplified my own intelligence about 30 IQ points. Lick made a similarly deep impression on George A. Miller, who first worked with him at Harvard's Psychoacoustics Laboratory during World War II. Lick was the all-American boy, tall, blond, and good-looking, good at everything he tried, Miller would write many years later. Extremely intelligent, intensely creative, and hopelessly generous. When you made a mistake, Lick persuaded everyone that you had just brought off the cleverest possible joke. He loved jokes. Many of my memories have him telling of some amusing absurdity, usually at his own expense, while he gestured with a Coca-Cola bottle in one hand. It wasn't that he cracked people up, exactly. It was just that when Lick held forth with that laconic Missouri twang and lopsided grin, his listeners somehow found themselves smiling. He came at the world with a sunny, open-faced friendliness that made it seem as though everyone he met was going to be just great. And somehow, for him, everyone usually was. He was a Missouri boy from way back. The name itself had originated generations earlier in Alsace-Lorraine, along the French-German border, but his family on both sides had lived in Missouri since before the Civil War. His father, Joseph Licklider, had been a farm boy from the middle of the state, near the town of Sedalia. Joseph also seemed to have been a determined and resourceful young man. In 1885, after his own father died in an accident involving a horse, the 12-year-old Joseph at once took on responsibility for his family. Realizing that he, his mother, and his sister couldn't hope to manage the farm on their own, he moved them all to St. Louis and went to work for one of the local railroads until he had put his sister through high school and college. Once that was done, Joseph apprenticed himself to an advertising firm to learn the crafts of writing and design. And once he had mastered those skills, he switched to insurance, eventually becoming a prize-winning salesman and head of the St. Louis Chamber of Commerce. Meanwhile, at a Baptist Youth Revival meeting, Joseph Licklider had caught sight of Miss Margaret Robnett. "I took one look at her," he later said, "and heard her sweet voice singing in the choir. And I knew I'd found the woman I loved." He immediately started taking the train out to her family's farm every weekend, determined to win her as his bride. He succeeded. Their only child was born in St. Louis on March 11, 1915. He was named Joseph for his father and Carl Robnett for his mother's late brother. The baby's sunny outlook was understandable. Joseph and Margaret were rather old for first-time parents in those days. He was 42 and she was 34, and they could be quite strict in matters of religion and good behavior. But they were also a warm, loving couple who adored their little boy and doted on him constantly. Everyone did. Young Robnett, as they called him at home, was not just an only child, but the only grandchild on either side of the family. As he grew, moreover, his parents encouraged him in piano lessons, tennis, and whatever else he wanted to try, especially if the activity was at all intellectual. And Robnett did not disappoint them, maturing into a bright, energetic boy with a lively sense of fun, an insatiable curiosity, and an abiding love of all things technological.